for a nominal fee.
Can I take a picture of you then?
Sure, for a nominal fee.
Yeah, exactly.
Name and likeness. We've been watching that at all week. You guys have that name and likeness for the NCAA players. A multi-billionaire tech is sponsoring all of the Falcons and things like that. They should get about $17,000 per person per year.
Oh,
Plus they get.
Because they're
some
unknown
get scholarships.
athletes.
so that reach down into college then too? That's the NCAA.
Yeah, that
That's
just kind of
saying-
started this year.
Yeah.
I mean, usually if you go for a photo op or autograph session, you have to do it for nothing. Now you can charge $10 for your autograph. Well, that was kind of, but now I can see right now the big players are getting in. We're gonna have full-time paid college.
I wonder if they play in the band if they get money.
That's some of my questions. There's a lot to it. There's a lot more to a football team than star running back. I mean, you don't go anywhere without those horses in front.
And you're right, Courtney, it's not open to the whole ball.
I mean, my daughter only gets $1,000 for playing in marching band. And it costs me more than that to have the stuff that she needs to do it.
Way more than
Just curious.
Yeah.
She swears being in marching band it makes her an athlete. That's a sport, she said. Okay,
Well,
Okay,
if it's financially good for them.
yes.
9 o'clock, join us in pledge allegiance. Pledge
allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Okay, the first thing we have is to approve the agenda. There's been no additions or corrections, right, Courtney?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and second to approve the agenda as presented. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Contrary, motion carried. Okay, next we have is approval of the minutes from last week, August 9th. Thank you, Stephanie.
Yep.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make that motion. I mean, did everybody have this? And there. Everybody, we had the salaries and I think it took like, I don't know how many pages.
Yeah.
Lot.
A lot.
Thanks, Gary.
It's kind of crazy, but I'll make a motion to approve the,
Is there a second? It's been moved and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion carried. Next we have is the review of the general assistance manual and Chad, do you want to do introductions for yourself?
Sure. Well, this is Roanne, as many of you know, she's our Family Development Center coordinator here in Carroll County. And she has been the one, well, first of all, she does so many things, right? And that includes, eating assistance and crisis services and food pantries and all those kinds of things. And we have added to her plate the general assistance as well for Carroll County. And from what I'm hearing from her and from other folks who are involved with the program, going very, very well. We very much appreciate this opportunity. Just want to remind you of all what a great fit it is for new opportunities, because we're doing all these other programs, whether it be substance abuse, whether it be Head Start, early Head Start, the heating assistance, the weatherization. I mean, there's just all these different programs we can incorporate clients who are applying for general assistance. We try to make general assistance the payer of last resort. So we're able to input folks into lots of our other programs before we hit general assistance. But when we do hit general assistance, I believe it's been going very, very well. I've been seeing some of the emails between Courtney and Roanne throughout the year, and everything seems to be, decent on my perspective as the executive director. But we're here this morning to hopefully get your approval. We'd love to do it for another year. We should probably put together a 20 AV agreement. And I think, if we look at last year's 28E, we can probably use the same one, update the year, or whatever you would all like to do. We are happy that a couple of the county supervisors did come over and reviewed our program, and if you all would like to talk how it went or how it didn't go, or
Well, that went great. Very well presented. Down to what we understood very well, and I the program is going in the right direction.
I would agree, and I really like that if a constituent stops in thinking they're gonna come in for one program, you guys explore all options before everything else, which is a definite benefit to Carroll County. I like that you can pull a folder at any point and it's gonna be in the same systematic order, as that's very important to you. I appreciate organization as well, so it is nice to have that across the board for the whole, all the systems.
Okay, so what we're here today is basically, we'll probably get something lined up for us the next 28 years, put that on the agenda. And, but we're here today to look at some changes possible in the general assistance manual, so. You guys want to go through what you want to change there? I think we've got a copy of all there.
I think the first one is on page 10. And is this how we want to do this? Is just go through each of these
Yeah,
changes?
let's go through each one and get,
Okay.
that way if anybody has
Okay.
complaints and explanations of exactly what's about.
So on page 10, which is the energy and utilities assistance. I guess our question is, we've got it down the bottom, is that if we have approved a household for LIHEAP, which is our heating energy and assistance program, and this household is protected from disconnection during the winter moratorium, do we deny requests for help with gas and electric service? So does everyone understand? We use these words all the time. So does everyone understand the moratorium? How that is a process where a person cannot be disconnected during the wintertime if they're working with us in our program? So Dean, if you've got a contract with the utility company and you're way behind, and the utility company says, we're going to cut you off, but you've applied for our services and we're working with you, utility company can't legally cut you off during this 4 or 5 month period. So during that 4 month period, is it okay for Dean to come in and get a little bit of general assistance during that time? That's our question.
For something else,
No, for
No,
gas.
for the-
for gas and
For
electric.
gas and
When we
electric.
know that they're not in a crisis situation at this time because we're already working with them with another program.
And the most we will be able to give you, according to the standards here, is $450.
I would say no, they would not get help because they're already getting help and they're, it's a last resort. Is it a last resort? Is it considered a last resort?
Well, it could be, it's money they owe. It's
Yeah.
past due balance that they owe on their account.
So if it's past due, then they are,
But we know they're not, going to be disconnected because we know that they're protected for however months it is, depending if it's from that November to April
So if
timeframe.
that's the case and they apply for LIHEAP, you do not give them LIHEAP and you know they're not going to get disconnected, right?
We give
We
them
do give them
money,
one.
Oh,
yeah,
you do?
yeah.
Let me ask this question. When they're in that moratorium, I have no problem with if they qualify, get all the qualifications. But as I see the issue, if you give the check or the money to the person, if they don't apply it to the utilities, then the utilities continues. But can you apply it to their utility account in their name? And you don't really bypass the person, you're helping them
With LIHEAP or with this
with
county?
like, can you
Both.
go right
It always
straight
goes
to
It
the
has to.
utility,
It always
not
has to.
to the person,
None of our
And I do-
services, the money goes to the person. Everything goes directly to whoever it's.
to the vendor
Yeah,
or the
every
person
service.
okay, everything that you touch.
It always goes to the utility company or the
Okay.
vendor. Yeah. And the other thing that I want to let you know is that LIHEAP, a lot of folks, we're battling this battle a lot. Is that folks will say to me on the street, boy, it sure must be nice to be on LIHEAP. It must be nice to get your bills paid all the time. LIHEAP is 1 or 2 payments throughout the year. I'm looking at her because the average award is around 400,
Yeah.
600 bucks. So think about your own lives. You know, 2 payments of, let's say the top, $600, so $1,200. How far is that gonna get you in your utility bill? I mean, it's gonna help a lot, but there's still a lot of expense. So don't think that LIHEAP is paying for everything, because it is, it's nice, but it's not a huge document. But, so again, the question is, when they're getting this payment, should they also be getting county assistance during this time or not? And again, we're just gonna implement the program. We're gonna do exactly what you tell us. We're not saying, heck, yes, you should do this, or heck, no, you should do this. We want to know from you folks. And you don't, and if you're like, oh, Chad, we really need to think about this for another week. I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot either. We just want some additional direction after doing this for you.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify that the heat assistance program is an assistance, and it's literally only to cover that extra additional heat costs during that time. It's not set up to cost, that's when he's saying this $400 or $500. That's because everybody's kind of got an average budget of what they use for their heat or electric. And then this is just to help those folks throughout those winter months when it's a little bit higher. And that's why sometimes there is an additional second payment if it's a really hard winter and they ran out of LP and they need a second fill, so this is just an assistance. It doesn't cover their bills completely. They still have their basic usage to cover during that time.
So you're saying, say like the $600 and then plus the 450, is that what you're asking? Is that the question?
Well, that would be the question.
Yeah.
I mean, we want to know if county assistance would help out for an additional dollar amount. And the dollar amount I gave you, that's on the high side. I mean, most awards are a lot less than that, probably more like 300 to 400.
What do you think?
What do I think?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's kind of a hard call, really.
Yeah,
If you don't-
and that's my
if you don't know
concern.
if you don't know the situation, I mean, I think it's a tough call.
But they still have to be eligible.
And on the
Yeah,
application,
they
we
do.
do ask them if
They're
they
still
receive
getting
LIHEAP. It is on our application, and then we do that as a dollar amount, to take in consideration the household income, so we are still taking that assistance into consideration on the application.
So those people are still in need, even if they qualify for that, they still qualify.
Exactly, which is where I just need clarification if we wanna, knowing that they're protected during those months, and then they go into crisis, and then at that time, we could help them. With crisis funding that helps with past due versus general assistance funds that is paying a one-time month fee.
I think it's tough because I think every circumstance is different and these applicants more than anybody else here would do. So it's kind of, to me, I'm having a hard time. Let's do a defined amount for every single person. Can you do it circumstantial or not?
Well, I want to treat her, that's why we have the matrix. So every single individual that comes in there is treated exactly the same, and no personal opinion is entered into any application. It is strictly what they put on.
And so to answer your question, yes, we can, but we want your blessing so that 1 or 2 or 5 times a year, a person might be on LIHEAP and they might be getting county assistance as well. And then we're just looking for your blessing. So there's nobody wants surprises on your end or our end at the end. So that's what we're doing.
So, I don't know, if this is an appropriate question or not, but so are these repeat people similar to you? Or are you able to wean people off, and get them on their feet and get them? Is that?
Our goal with all of our programs is to get people out of our program.
Yeah.
Our goal has always been to get folks out within hopefully 3 to 4 months. We're making lots of referrals to workforce development. We're getting them help with whether it be substance abuse, whether it be our WIC program, our health services programs, our Head Start and Early Head Start. I mean, we're constantly working with folks to get them back on their feet. Some folks, we can say we get it done within 30 to 60 days. Other folks, 2 years, but every situation is different. It depends on all these other circumstances of disability, elderly, having children. I mean, there's just always, just like with the world. I mean, it's just lots and lots of things going on. So again, this would be a great help for those folks who are qualified. I mean, again, we're going through the matrix, like Roanne said, on every client. So, does everyone understand the matrix? Maybe just like a 30-second overview of what the matrix is.
It's just the same general questions that are asked to everybody, and they are, verifying that, yes, they don't have these assets, just to follow down the ordinance. A lot of them are the basic questions off of the first paragraph of the ordinance stating, are you needy? Do you have this asset? Do you have another fund? Have you asked anybody else for assistance? Have you used general assistance before? I think everybody should have a copy. I know there's a copy in there of the matrix. But I do a financial literacy program as well. So I do work with people financially to help get their budgets on track. The LIHEAP is it comes into play because that's something that we do, over half of the year. So these clients that are coming in, I know that they're not in risk of being disconnected at this time because I've already helped this assistant. Do I not look at that when a client comes in asking for electric? Can I treat them just as a general assistance, even though I know that the application says they've received $400 and their application to me, going by our guidelines, says that I can pay their 1 month usage, knowing that they wouldn't have to pay it right now because they're protected. That's what I just need to know. If you want me to look at it completely separate or tell them I can help them after LIHEAP, and then we would look at it. I just need guidance on if you want me to take in consideration that when looking at a utility. If you look at the budget, what I spent utilities, I barely spent any because we specialize in the utility assistance. So I can use our programs well before we'd ever use general assistance.
So do you make they get $450 period.
No, some only get $100, some it is based
you're
off
talking
a
what,
percentage.
LIHEAP or
Yeah, I'm talking
general
that,
assistance?
yeah, general assistance is a 1 month usage. We can pay 1 month and no past due according to the ordinance. So if it's a water bill, it might only be $50. If it's electric bill, it might be $100.
But and there's a maximum of what, 400 or is it $500?
Right, but somebody would have to use that in a 1 month usage because general assistance can only pay a 1 month usage. I can't pay past due, so, I am paying 1 month for them.
All of that. I thought the maximum was $500. And that can be used for rent, can be used for gas, can be used for LP. Can they use $100 in November and use another $100 in February if they get, up to $500 a year? Is that the way that works? Or are you telling me that it's just one time?
The ordinance states a 1 month actual usage of rent, shelter, utilities, medication, not to exceed $450. So say somebody came in for one-time uses of LP, I would only pay up to $450 because it might be $500. That's only I can't imagine somebody would use more than that 1 month. And if they did, we'd probably have to be looking into why they use that much for one
Yeah,
utility.
But what if?
But it could be up to
What
$400.
if they came in 1 month and they had a $300 utility bill, then the next month they come in and they use medication?
Yeah, then they would only be allowed the $150.
Okay, so that answers my question.
Annual is 400.
The annual.
Yeah, the annual's 400. That's what I thought. I just
500
wasn't-
actual. It's
Actually,
500.
For 5
Yeah.
months, yeah.
Mhm. And we do break that down into our manual that we're trying to get it updated. So it does state in there like $50 max for transportation. It does break it down in a little more detail.
So the utility part of it in the winter, they're not going to shut it off, but the billing doesn't stop,
Right.
correct?
Correct.
So that just accumulates
But you can't go back and pick
a
up
past due.
past years.
We could, once they get into crisis. So I'm saying, because of our other program, we can
Right.
help them in
But
addition.
not in this program, cannot be
Yeah.
used for past years.
Yes.
So it's only for current.
So let's split the hair a little bit here. Most all utilities, you can look at each month. LP could be, I need my tank filled, which may be a couple, 3 past months on that fill. What I'm getting at is when you buy $500 of LP, that could have been for the past 2 or 3 months.
Or for future months.
Or for future months. So I guess the LP one is the kind of the snag here for me, because if you're looking at just that month, what did you spend on LP that month? Because the bill was to fill the tank. How much did you use it?
Yeah, but on a side note, I would never do that because I know I can get a filled LP through our LIHEAP program for somebody. So
Okay.
I would look at that
Okay.
first before I even
Okay.
look at general
Okay.
assistance.
Because that's my only snag there with this program is that one.
Yeah.
So which way do you guys prefer?
Well, in my opinion, if we're gonna treat this as two separate programs, this individual from Carroll County is coming in asking for assistance for 1 month. Our ordinance states I can help him with one current month. And that, yes, I would try to get them set up on this program or I could get them more help, but technically they are allowed to have that 1 month. I mean, by the way it states, I feel that we should not dictate by what other services, it's on the application, we know it's on there, we go down the matrix to treat them exactly the same as anybody that walked in the door.
It's the way we should do it.
Yeah, you know, and referring to your LP question, I mean, you know, and we get ours filled every month in the winter time, right? So, you know, they top it off $150 or something like that every
And
month.
find some
So-
way to do.
So,
what
so
they
there's,
needed to.
yeah, so that being considered, I mean, can they come in every month and say,
Even though they got a 3/4 full tank?
yeah, they got a 3/4 full tank and, but this is the bill they've got. You know, I mean, I don't think anybody's gonna let it get down to a point where, or do they? I don't know. Maybe
You know,
they do.
we rarely see LP.
Okay.
It's usually a one-time fill, we help them, and then they come back in for a second crisis at most. But these are also people that probably can't make contracts, a lot of them.
Yeah.
You know, they can't get the fill unless I have called the vendor and requested it, you know, stating that, yes, you know, we will be covering this bill. Because these are needy individuals, not, you know, probably in the best situation always.
Let's try it for a year. We're gonna get together next year.
Yeah, which ways?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I think trust you to make the right decision.
So I'm gonna note to consider it as a separate application. To take in consideration their LIHEAP assistance, but they would fill out the general application for 1 month usage.
So Courtney, what we'll do is we'll update this manual and then we'll get it to you and then you can look at it one final time. So now we move to the next page, which is page 14, which is burial. And this is where I think we've had the most questions and concerns about. And so our first question is, hopefully you've all had a chance to read the current policy procedure process, is that the question is, does the client need to be deceased, and family applies. So hospice clients are contacting new opportunities and requesting an application to prepare for their funerals. If so, does this allow the same timeline of approving or denying within 5 days? So there's really 2 questions there, right? Rowan, is the first question is, does the client need to be deceased to get burial expenses? And then the next question is, if so, then does the same timeline apply for approving and denying within 5 days? So do you folks want folks?
So do you have that, you actually have hospice people?
I actually have one today. I have a meeting with somebody that's in hospice. The hospital called, asked if we could assist them with a burial. Yep, they come in there, they tell them to get arranged with the funeral parlor to, go now. And then the funeral parlor, director usually reaches out to me or the family. They kind of all call me and just give me a heads up.
I guess I don't see where that's an issue. Yeah,
So again, when they meet qualifications, then we can pay that.
That's where I'm at.
well, that's upon their death, though, correct? I mean, the arrangements can be made, but upon their death, then it can be paid out.
Okay, so we're gonna say that, yes, they need to be deceased to be able to fill out the application, so then we stay in the 5 days guidelines.
I would say, I think what they're saying is a family can go ahead and apply and get their arrangements made, but the payment isn't gonna be made until they're deceased.
Okay,
Does
so,
that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
all right. So we'll waive the 5 days then until
Right.
deceased, okay.
And then the next question,
But let's look on the positive side. Let's say things turn around for
that's right, that's
them.
what I was
There
thinking.
should be a time frame deadline on that too, I think.
Well, I can't process the application until I actually get an invoice from the funeral home, so
Yeah.
either way, it's gonna be waived until I actually
Yeah,
get the
but I mean, let's
invoice.
say they wind up,
Went in the lottery before they died.
yeah, and then they get better. I mean, and then 10 years later, they die and say, well, I got this. No, then I'd say the answer is no.
So how about we say within a year? Within a year, they have to reapply.
Then you can always make arrangements. I mean, everybody makes pre-death arrangements. You know, you can always make that arrangement.
So then the application is only valid for a year.
Yeah, something like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, a lot could change in a household in a year.
I'm looking at the bright side, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, there may be some kind of treatment that comes forward and
So your glass.
probably not, but
Your glass half full.
they,
Today he is.
okay, we're gonna change that verbiage on that one. The next one is, does the deceased need to be buried in Carroll County to be eligible?
There, let's say no, because it could be someone wants to be buried down at the VA.
what about funeral homes? Do they have to be in Carroll County?
Say no, as long as the applicant's from Carroll County, that's.
Yeah.
the one, won't get-
I, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if you pass in the county, you have to be involved. Cremated. Before you can be shipped out of state, out of county. I don't know about cremation side, but I think you have to be involved. It's so very long, but I mean, keep one in there where you got to find.
Out of state, I don't know about cross county. Well, and as far as the funeral home, I think if they have someone else do it, that's fine. But the thing is, they gotta live with the guidelines we have for our price.
Right.
I don't see a problem with that.
I'd rather stay in the county.
Yeah, I would
So you're
too.
saying if a person is a Carroll County resident, becomes deceased, the family decides they want to be buried in the family plot in Covert, and the funeral home's gonna do it in Crawford. So that payment then would go to Crawford or wherever that. But
Oh,
they
we-
were a resident of Carroll County.
Yeah,
right?
Well, they would, yeah, I mean, if we're gonna go off the time of application, they would apply yet while they're still here, but like, you know, we would go by where they lived in the application. I just need to know if I'm supposed to keep it in the county or not.
So then could they reapply? Could this happen where they would apply over in Crawford?
They maybe could, I suppose, they.
They could, but see, you've got to be a resident of that county to get
Yeah.
county assistance,
Yeah.
hopefully. That's how other counties treat this.
I mean, I know some people that have died here in county and then they had ties to down in Des Moines area and they had someone that funeral home take care of. So I think you can't. I don't know if you can tie that down to anything. You'd have maybe some other thing. It'd be nice to have it done here, but. I don't think
We have agreements with just our Carroll County. Correct. We can have agreements with anybody.
Yeah, we don't have any formal agreements with them. I think in these types of situations, obviously, they don't work for funeral homes, but they're usually doing these types of services at a loss to them.
Yeah.
Because, you know, especially our local people. service and, you know, they aren't making any money on it. And, you know, especially when they're eligible for the, you know, $1,500, it doesn't get you very far for a funeral,
Right.
so. I'm not saying that they don't charge the family more money. I don't think it's definitely a money making deal for the.
You know, when arrangements are made, you know, whether you're buried in, whether the services are here, Carroll County, and you're buried in Crawford County, you know, the funeral home's gonna make those arrangements. And it's all gonna be here in Carroll County. I don't think, you know, they may pay the bill for the guy who digs the grave and, but, correct? Isn't that basically how that works?
This is if the family wants to have the funeral home in another county,
Mhm.
you know. Say a Denison Funeral Home calls me because the Carroll residence is, you know, the family's there.
Problem with that. I mean, the biggest thing that comes to my mind is that, well, he was originally from Seattle, Washington, and he wants to go back there. So that's a problem. I mean, then about all you can do is cremate the body. And then here he is,
Well, yeah.
you know, then you take care of the burial, you do whatever you want or need to do.
Our policy says we're only gonna pay so much.
That's right.
Yeah, it
Right.
says 1,500 or 2,200.
Well, that's true.
max.
That's right. Yeah,
So I don't think, it's an issue.
no, I don't think so.
Because sometimes, like I say, there's people live here, but they want to go back to where the family.
There's
So then-
maxes on it, so it's not like. we're
Yeah,
paying
it's like a
Right.
maximum.
So then our next question has to do with, again, thinking about what Dean was talking about before. You get $500 maximum for the whole year for utility assistance, for medications, and all those kinds of things. Well, what about on month 10, the person passes away? So the question is, if the client has received general assistance within the last 12 months time frame, is that amount deducted from the amount of burial assistance limit, or is the household eligible for the full burial
I would
amount?
say not.
What does that mean? Not what?
Well, I mean, I would say.
He gets the full amount.
The full
We're treating
amount.
it separately.
Yeah, it achieves a.
Yeah, separate.
That's the easiest solution to that.
Yeah,
I mean, otherwise you.
So then we would like to include the following into the manual in the section as well. And I guess I'll just kind of read them. First one is responsible relatives income will include wages from employment, child support, alimony, rental assistance, social security or disability, supplemental security income, unemployment, veterans disability compensation or workers compensation, and other receipts of income or public assistance of a family to include food stamps and housing assistance. Failure to disclose all income constitutes an immediate disqualification for assistance. And then all assets of the deceased to include personal property, real estate, life insurance, and any other assets must be first liquidated before consideration can be made. Insurance, social security, death benefits, assets, resources, or family contributions must be applied towards funeral expenses and may make a person ineligible for assistance. Examples of allowable costs may include cremation or embalming, securing permits, filing death certificate, and other forms of claims. Non-allowable costs include memorial service, flowers, musicians, speakers, and singers. The General Assistance Office must have an itemized statement submitted with the application. So how do you like that? Is that getting too specific? We like things specific. We like
But
things,
still, the maximums apply.
the maximum still apply.
We're actually just from what we have already in the manual, we just are adding a little bit more details of a breakout for more clarification.
so on the application, you ask for relatives income, right?
That's the next question that we're gonna hit here. Is the responsible party, because that will determine how we continue with the application process. And what you just determine as the responsible party.
So we can jump down to that, if that helps with the answering the top question. And the question is, what are the guidelines surrounding responsible parties? Are we able to limit responsible parties to household members? More questions to follow on page 17 if the responsible party is not limited to household members.
This is tough and tricky and complicated
Oh,
question.
yeah.
Because in the private industry, if a family member becomes ill and needs to go into a nursing home or assisted living that doesn't accept Medicaid, Medicare, the family is responsible, not a 17-year-old. Anybody above 18 is responsible for that payment. And it can go down further than just your children. So like, let's say my mom went into a home, I would be responsible for her bills. If she had no more money, they would come. And I would just start paying. Or they could apply for Title 19. But it gets very,
And so how does the system find out if you get income or not?
they know everything.
That's true. Then
They
how
do,
we-
they know if you have land,
And
they
and how do we,
know.
so how would we know that? So I'm trying to think of it. I don't want to make it personal. Can I use your mom? I love your mom. So your mom,
She's an exemption because she's private. She's not, she doesn't accept, they're different, they're private pay only, so they don't get into the weeds of that very much. But like Garden View or Swan Place that accept some different forms of payment.
so let's say that your parents were low income and had been having troubles the last 10 years of their life, and both parents have passed away. You come to us and you say, we would like to get this general assistance for mom's funeral. But we're like, you've got a business, you've got this. Should it be required that she put on her application? That's where we're going with this, right?
Responsible?
We
Yeah.
need to know, is she
Yes.
responsible? Is Stephanie gonna be responsible for that? Or can Stephanie just say,
But it could go the other way around. An adult child passes away and has two, say, divorced parents. You know, do we take in consideration both their income if they can pay for that burial? So that's the problem with our wording currently. It states the responsible relatives are defined as parents, spouses, grandparents, and or adult children. And so we just need to clarify who we want that actually to be.
This is in our current
The,
guidelines.
the manual that we approved prior.
And
Last
that's
year.
taken
As
from
an
the
adult
ordinance.
child, I wouldn't want to be responsible for my parents'
You
death.
would or would not?
I wouldn't want to be. I mean,
Would
who
not.
would want that? And I
Well,
wouldn't want
yeah,
my
I
parents.
guess
to be
I-
But it's what
feel
happens,
like
but it
that.
happens now, if you go to the funeral home,
Yeah,
you and any siblings you have, they consider you responsible parties.
And they've already gone through all of your assets. So if mom and dad owned a home, they sell the home, they take that profit, pay the bill. And if they had land or something else, they go through all of their assets before they come to the next person. Yeah, it's tricky.
But the adult child of a parent is very well a beneficiary as well. you know.
Yes,
So that could be another issue with the guidelines for income.
I never find how many life insurance policies somebody has.
I actually, I have a burial application that I did research with other counties on how they handle their burial. And, a lot of them straight out ask on the application if they're, because we are trying to find out if there's any assets, and that is part of the guidelines of ordinance that you have to be less than $2,000 of assets and net worth. So at that point, obviously, a family of 5 kids and the parent passes away, between the 5 collectively, you know, I'm sure they're gonna be above that. But we just really need to decide who we're gonna collect that information from. If it's the deceased and they have a life insurance policy and it's gonna pay out to the kids, obviously it clearly states that they would no longer,
I mean, how much digging do you do if it's only a $1,500 max or a $2,200 max?
Yeah.
So it's all self-declaration.
That's
you can
true
spend a
right
lot of
there.
time digging.
Yeah.
well, we
That's
don't
what-
do,
yeah,
we
I
give them
mean,
an application, they
yeah,
fill
You
it
can look
out,
at the
we take
Great
it to the
Iowa
best of
Treasure
what they.
Hunt. You have to search that, see if there's money,
You can have a program.
Well, the thing is, the thing is, if they do, we get a burial right now, we can go back, if some assets show up later, we can go out and claim them back to recoup our costs.
That sounds like we're gonna spend more than $2,000
I know,
on legal
I
fees.
know. But how far do you go?
Well, I guess I go, when my dad died, nobody knew that he had a Knights of Columbus insurance policy because he didn't believe in insurance, in life insurance at all. He had plenty of money but, he had this insurance policy. I mean, if we wouldn't, my brother who's in the insurance business wouldn't have did some legwork, that would have been left out there and nobody would have ever known about it. So I mean, I think those things that they do happen, but it's gonna take some digging to get to it. So,
And as for digging, I mean, what we do is we have people sign the application, so it's a self-declaration. So you would have signed, God forbid, when your father passed away, you would sign saying, father needs help getting buried, yada, yada, yada. And so you signed it, and you're saying good to go. A month later, you get this check from the insurance company, then it's your responsibility to think, okay, I went over and I saw that gal by the name of Rowan, and I self-declared this, I need to go pay her. And if that doesn't happen, and then we hear around Carroll County that Dean bought all these new houses and these cars and everything, well, then we would go, you know, probably to Courtney, Mr. Warden, I don't know. I mean, we would bring it to your attention.
Cars and
but-
houses, I would have given you $1,500 back.
Well, and that's, but my point is we're gonna do it as best we can, but we can't do too much digging. And
I mean, do you guys
just-
want to add this? To me, it seems like more homework to you to try to track it down for $2,200 max payment.
Well, I have two proposals, depending on if you want adult children. Our application is not set up, our current application is not set up for burial for household, for anybody other than the individual. So I either have a burial application that we're gonna ask the other family members if they have assets that can cover it, or we're gonna narrow it down to just the household and go off of theirs. And then at that point, all we're doing is having an affidavit that's just gonna state if they have life policy or extra money that's gonna be coming in upon their death. I mean, there's really just the two. We just have to decide if we want to consider adult children
I
and
think
parents.
just household,
So,
which would be the spouse, probably, correct?
well, it could be an adult child living in the home,
Okay, yes.
could, a parent and something you do have. I mean, if we want to go household, but that states if we stay in household, we're taking the income of the household.
Is that right? That one gets put on the hook, and the other 12 get off.
If the caretaker living with them.
There you
And again,
go.
we're talking about $1,500.
Yeah.
One
Well,
successful.
first-
And most people aren't eligible for this unless they're in dire straits. I mean, you can't just get it because she died and you
Well,
don't have a lot of money.
First of all, I think most people in this county, if they've got any means, are gonna go and take care of themselves instead of having a funeral that is a $1,500 quality.
We just haven't, I mean, in the time I've been here, we haven't paid for a lot of funerals. I mean, we pay for
Most people
some,
take
but
care
not
of
all.
themselves.
I mean, it's not like 20 a year. I mean,
I would agree with what Gene is saying. I mean, I'm looking at, so here's a family that says, well, we can get $1,500 or $22,000, what is it?
2,200
2,200.
max.
And so, well, let's go and buy mama $6,000 casket, on our own. Is that kind of what we're talking about? That the family's gonna spend up and above what to make it a nice, and then they're also gonna apply for this $2,200 because mom doesn't have any money.
Yeah,
Is that
but my
kind of
question
what we're
is, do I
talking
take the
about?
children's income into consideration, or we just take?
I mean, that's kind of what I'm wondering is if, and then they have, a big dinner, and, the family spends all this money, but they also got general assistance.
And this would probably clarify a
So
lot
that,
too.
that would never happen, would it, Courtney, or not? I don't know.
Hasn't. I
It
mean,
hasn't.
people that we've helped pay for,
Is there 5 a year we do?
Have you had 5 total?
well,
I've had
yes.
5 total ask me in the last year, but
Yeah.
only
Okay.
2 that actually qualified and we paid out.
Number one, it's hard to qualify. I mean, the person has to be very, very needy even to be eligible. And you just don't see when somebody dies that they're out looking to do the town. They just want to get their loved one buried. And
Finalize it.
yeah, I just don't.
Well, and
This
it's
is
not the
when they're
individuals reaching
grateful.
out, it's the funeral directors that are reaching out first. This person has went to the funeral home, I don't have any money to bury, why don't you go see Roanne to see if you guys can qualify for some, Carroll County general assistance. It's never been just somebody walking in saying, I need help to bury somebody. I've always had a funeral director that's also involved.
So you said you had, say, maybe 5. Okay, so you said that also you only approved 2.
Yes,
Okay, so why did not those 3 others?
because I stated,
qualify?
because I read what we had in our manual. And then as soon as I said the adult children, the whole family looked at each other and then walked back out. Never brought in an
Because they
application.
knew they were gonna need it.
And then another one was 2 divorced parents. Their son was gonna pass away. I gave them the application, told them that we take in consideration that the whole income, and they never returned it back in. So I didn't actually ever have to send out denials because no one ever turned in the application. They just came in and asked me.
So you're wanting this wording in there?
They don't.
No, I mean, I need clarification if we should have it. Because I'm running into situations where, there's multi-generations in these houses, and I just need to know how we're gonna take in consideration.
So the 2 that did qualify, there was family involved? Or not?
Yes, the one was a spouse. And they were clients, so I knew their household and situation. And actually 95% of people that come in are clients that I already know their whole situation. And then, what was the other one?
Well, I think-
So I mean, it sounds to me
I think
like
you get
it's,
the
it
idea.
seems to me like it's real limited in family and
Yeah, I mean, it's close family or, oh yeah, it was a brother that wasn't gonna take responsibility. So that was one of those where the funeral, so it's whoever they contact, the funeral parlor contacts as a responsible party has to kind of fill out the application for the deceased for me. I just need to know if I need to take in consideration their income. Or if they state I am not a responsible party, that's where I have the affidavit. Literally can check that I'm not responsible, but I will fill out this application on behalf of the deceased.
do you see this as an issue?
I just need clarification.
Well, the language she wants to have is, I think, a good thing, because it's definitely more clear. Yeah, and the responsible party, we just need to know. How far we go with that.
Yeah, household or,
Household to me
Extended.
seems pretty fair, but, I don't know.
In most circumstances, it is fair household, except where if you have a dependent child living with you and the other 7 children don't live, but you think within that scenario, the family.
You get this strange children that absolutely have lost their hands to deal with here.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
May have become fairly successful. I like the way you've attacked it, but yet I see the other side of that.
The son is wealthy and lives in California. Dad was just a no good.
Yeah.
I wash my hands of the guy. You do whatever you want to with him.
I'm trying to.
So how do you get that money? I mean, he's pretty much, this guy who died is pretty much on his own. I mean, there's family that can pay for it, but are not gonna pay for it.
Yeah, and the other side of it is, and everybody says, I work my hands and then, take them all, but everybody.
And the other side of it is that we want to keep our funeral homes productive and breaking even and making money too, because
At least
this wealthy son that you're talking about in California is probably gonna say, well, whether the county pays or not, I'm out, I ain't paying nothing. Well, who's gonna get stuck for it?
Yeah, and your.
That's right, that's right. And again, and Courtney said it a million times, I mean, we're not talking about that much money.
No.
Yeah.
Not a huge dollar amount,
So I
but
would,
it's,
and most programs go by household.
I would say that you need to add the verbiage that you have here. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I don't have any problem.
Does that help clarify?
so we're gonna go with households.
Okay.
Households.
Okay, so that's all covered then on that page, I believe. Now if we go to the page 17, did all this get covered, Joanne?
Well, it depended on, the answers depended on the responsible party decision. So these questions were just additional questions. So like, what if no family member or responsible party can be located?
So if we're going with household, then that doesn't really apply, does it?
Right.
So we're just gonna go
We're just gonna.
from
go
what the
with
funeral
household.
director provides?
So if somebody passes away, they have no one, and it's the funeral home that contacts you, who fills out the application. That's the question. Because that happens,
Yeah,
yeah, because they contact us too.
I'm sure.
Well, someone's got to complete the paperwork, so I would say the funeral home needs to do the best that they can to help complete the paperwork.
Yeah.
Because we're not gonna do this program without someone signing or being the responsible program, and I don't mean that mean, but this is the double check, the check and balances that we've all.
Yeah, you guys can't fill out the paperwork and then also approve it.
we wouldn't, I mean, I would send it to my.
I know you
team.
wouldn't, but I'm saying,
That's exactly right.
that would raise a lot of flags.
But if they're already a client, there's certain information I would be able to provide.
Sure.
So for one, it would be the funeral home,
If there's no one else.
if there's no one else. Number two is, are we to take into consideration all responsible parties' income? So no, because we're going with household
Yeah.
now. Number three is, would the income guideline less than $2,000 be for each individual family
Decide not.
or collectively? Would you say?
That's the same thing, adult
Okay, so
children or
that's-
divorced parents, we ruled out.
Yeah, so that's no, so we don't need to worry about that. And then the final one is, we propose to use a separate general assistance application for burial assistance to get the information we need to determine eligibility. Is this allowable? Please see the proposed application on the next page.
So we wouldn't need the application, since we ruled out the responsible parties, because the way it was set up, it was only for one person. At this point, all we would need to probably do is the burial affidavit that just says that they're gonna be coming into life insurance, you have a burial contract, real estate, just the basic questions. And it can literally be signed, it would mark here, if it's executor or relative, power attorney, other person is, you would just state that you're on this behalf of this individual, they do not have additional property that would be coming into play. That would make them ineligible.
So that sounds okay too. Well, I'm sorry, I hope we didn't make that too complicated. We want to make it as specific as possible. It's going to really help Carroll County in the long run and new opportunities to be as specific as we can. So if there's no questions or major problems in the future. So again, we will make these changes. We will get these coordinates to look over. We'll plan to implement these right away. If we can get a 2080 agreement in the next week or two, that would be great. We want to get that going. And then we would invite you to come and review our file. So every quarter, every 6 months, whatever you'd like to do. We appreciate you folks coming in last month, I believe it was, to review and went well, and thank you. So any final questions or comments?
I'd like to continue that, Chad. I think that's a good deal. And I'd like to recommend to the board that we rotate it around. Where other people, other than Gene's not exempt himself, he sets on the board, and I understand that, so.
Next time we'll have Scott and Dean go.
But maybe in a
That'd be
year,
great.
in a year or 6 months, whichever you guys prefer, I'm okay with once a year if we go. Quick review.
Well, yeah, and I think it's a refresher,
Mhm.
you know, there's a lot of stuff you don't see it for a year or two.
That's right.
And Scott, I would love to invite you over for a tour in the next couple of weeks. Would you give me a call? And I'll give you a tour and show you all of our programs and everything we do. And I think the rest of you have been there, done that, but I should have reached out sooner, and I apologize.
No, that was your copy, but I'll take it if you'd like it to. Unless you want to keep it, do you want to keep it
A
on?
new one in there, I don't know.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
You can do the updates and that, and then just get it to working.
Sure.
So we don't know.
Thank you for this
Yeah,
partnership,
thank
you know, I think you do a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
Partnership.
It is a good partnership. We appreciate it. Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Zach? I'll be able to see that.
Yes.
Sorry, Ron, John.
I'm not talking about funerals or LP gas.
Morning, Zach.
Morning.
Morning, Zach. Hey, got a utility permit again.
Yep, another one. Very simple. This one's for Raccoon Valley Electric. Southeast of Rita. Put up a new house, just getting service across the road, across Ivy. Section 17 east. So pretty straightforward, nothing out of the ordinary, just gonna bore underneath the road.
That's an existing,
Existing acreage.
yeah.
Yep.
I'm familiar with that, and that looks all good to me. I'll make a motion to approve that utility permit.
I'll second.
Chance to move in second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Not carried, motion carried.
Thank you. Quick construction update. The N33 Dedham Road project, they should get done with asphalt tomorrow. They'll still need to do pavement markings and rumble strips at the north end, but from a paving standpoint, they're going to finish up the work at the railroad tracks tomorrow, and it should be done. So
To be totally finished by the end of the week.
hopefully, I know they'll get the center line markings done. Paint is a really hard thing to come by right now, so we'll see how when that happens. But it is crazy.
Who's gonna take care of the site on those roads?
We're working on bringing rock out to touch up all the intersections, driveways, all that. And then we're also gonna start pulling back that material that we milled out back up next to the paved shoulder as well. I think we're gonna start doing that probably Wednesday. So we'll have a few days, I'm sure, of pulling that back up, and may have to add a little bit more material in certain places and whatnot. But so that process will still be going, I'm gonna guess, for the next week or two, depending on what weather does.
So you're gonna do the drives and stuff like that the way you did up in Rita? I mean, put the white rock down, and
Yep.
I mean, that was great.
Yep. It won't be a long ways, but a little
Yeah,
approach. And
5 feet,
try to just
3 feet.
tie it in.
whatever it is.
In fact, they've done quite a bit of it already. They've done some of it, I should say.
Yeah.
They got to touch a little bit more up, but if there was a drop off at all, they try to get some in there right away to get people on without having to bump. So
I've received nothing but compliments on the whole process, how quick they were, how long the road is.
Norris has done a great job. I can't. They're a good contractor, and the foreman on the job has been doing it a long time and knows what he's doing, and they've taken care of what needed taken care of. So I guess good or bad, it hasn't rained much, so that hasn't slowed them down. So they've been able to keep making hay. So
I drove Wednesday, part of it. Sure, and I'm like Stephanie, I've heard nothing but comments from people down, especially on dead. It sure looks like some good weather.
it does look right. It does. We get the white lines on the edges and make it look a little more normal, I guess you want to call it that. But it'd be a definite improvement that was needed. That's for sure. So,
I'm waiting for me to get that. I'm not gonna be one of the distractions.
As far as other work going on, we are working on doing some earth shouldering up at Lanesboro. This is something that we've agreed to get some dirt from Steve Reinhardt up there. This, I think, they brought to you guys back, probably 2 years ago or more. So we are using his stockpile of dirt to widening those shoulders. We started at Lanesboro and worked our way south. Now we're headed east, so we're going to continue working on that. I'm sure we'll use up that whole pile of dirt, and then we have some stockpile up there as well, back behind, and then we'll clean some ditch if need be as well. So, going well, just a slow process. So.
On the ditch digging,
Mhm.
you know, you mostly stockpile that, or do you have locations, you kind of coordinate where the dirt is needed and then.
We try to coordinate with whether it's a project like this where we're doing some shouldering, or whether there's driveways need to be widened in an area, or whatever the situation might be where we need some dirt, we'll look for doing ditch cleaning in those areas. If there's a ditch that just needs clean period and we don't have anything, that's when we're looking to stockpile it. You know, we got probably 5 locations around the county or maybe 6, maybe even more than that, where we do have places to stockpile dirt, and we'll bring it to the closest place generally that we can get to.
Government business next week.
That's the last they told me, but I know Paul talked with Crawford County and they still got quite a bit of work to do, so it wouldn't surprise me if it's pushed back a little bit, but they haven't told me that yet, so I guess I don't know what the answer for sure is, so.
I also went down, looked at the Coon project, and he's aware of that, and I kind of mentioned that to you guys. But just that it's a patch job, and it didn't turn out as well. But it's there, so.
One of the long patches is a little wavy. It's on a super elevation and it's on a curve going up the hill. It's not perfect, but it's a patch. I don't think it's horrible. I think it's comparable to what it was, I guess, from that standpoint, from the line standpoint. The pavement's obviously better. We don't have the deterioration and the joints failing like we did, and it won't for hopefully that fixes that for a long time. But it's not a brand new, completely resurfaced road. I guess it wasn't intended to be that, and it's not that, but I think it's a serviceable road, I guess.
After I visited you, I was wondering, do you think that machine was having problems recalibrating itself as it's going around that incline?
I don't know. I mean, the way that laser screed worked, it did it in like 10 or 12 foot segments. So you put all those segments together, and it's not a continuous motion. You know, and there's really no good way to do that, because even if you use forms and screeded it, those forms are still segments. You know, it's not one. It's not a paving machine, I guess, is what it boils down to. So, and again, I guess when I drove it, I think it was great, but I didn't think it was horrible either. I thought
That's kind of
it was okay. So,
and I mean, it isn't. It's in a bad position. You're going like that.
Yeah, I'll go down and take a look at it.
It's not bad.
Should it go on it before?
well, and that's what.
Yeah,
And that's the thing.
compare
It's
it.
been a while since I've been on.
And as I said, if you try to remember what it was like before, then it might not
Be
feel
bad.
so bad. I
Yeah.
mean, if you go drive the Devon Willie Road first and then go drive that, then you're not gonna be satisfied, because there's a big difference. But it's, again, 2 different types of construction. So I mean, it's a, like Gene said, it's a patch versus a,
But I just wanted to be aware of the case.
Yep. absolutely.
But it does put that piece of pavement in a better place
Absolutely.
to get us by until we so choose to maybe do a lift.
You could try to smooth it out with that. You could try to diamond grind it. There's different things you could try to do. So.
And depending on if Guthrie would ever make a move down there to reach their part, maybe it'd be a good time. If it's in a good place to join in, then just do that a little bit while we're doing.
Right. We're at least not gonna have, holes and things fall apart. That's the, I guess, from the safety perspective, was gonna be a concern. We started using a lot of cold mix out there, and that is what we got rid of, so we're away from that.
There's one.
Right there.
They didn't get that.
They didn't get that one done. Okay,
So,
I'll take a look at it.
yeah, see you get something out of it. It was just right in there where you, not a big one. Guys brought my face.
Okay.
All right. Anything else for Zach?
Have you been on the Colony Road, Crawford County?
Not for a while.
I've gotten comments and I have driven on parts of it. And it's experiencing deterioration already.
Yeah.
You heard that?
I haven't, but I can imagine it. I know it was a one lift. I mean, it wasn't a full resurface. It was kind of a Band-Aid per se.
What's the number for it?
M64, right?
M60. Yeah,
Is that off of the?
that's
Straight south of
Sac
Lake.
County down the west side.
Oh,
And we shared that with Crawford County.
Yep, just a one lift surface.
And it was great, but it's.
How long ago was that?
It was done since, I was just on the board, I think, so it'd be about approaching 7 years.
Which that's not a long time for a project, but
Yeah.
when it's one lift, I guess I'm not 100% sure what the expectation was from Dave on cost and what they thought they were gonna get for a life expectancy out of it either, but I'll take a look at it and see. I mean, I'll talk with Crawford County as well and see what their thoughts are in the future. I'm sure right now they think that they're probably don't have a lot of money spent with it on asphalt. They did this year too. So, but we're somewhat in the same boat. So we'll have to see what the next step is for that road, I guess, what the next fix is.
Do you track anymore? Because I think that was part of that 10-cent increase. Right, remember that, Gene?
yeah, it was.
And
I
so,
should say that.
are we tracking any of that anymore as far as what we're doing with that 10-cent increase?
I'm not aware that we are.
Yeah.
I think you still used to, at least within the last year and a half or 2 years, I know you can still pull out what that difference was or what that difference was. Yeah, that came out, but I haven't seen anything recently on if it's the same number or whether it just changed at all. Yeah.
I suppose you can check that. I mean, you know.
I know when they did it, I mean, it was a great thing and it really
It
helped.
was
get
kind of a
little-
big deal for a couple of years because I remember some counties, I mean, they'd put big signs up saying this road is
It was
what your 10-cent increase in your gas tax.
It was a really good shot in the arm, is
Yeah.
really what it was. I mean, the worst part was we're so far behind the 8 ball with a lot of things that it was never gonna fully make up the difference of how far behind you were.
Well, we're still.
certainly
we're
helped.
still in that same-
Absolutely helped.
We're still in that same situation. You always find projects to do.
Well, that's right. I mean,
You're never gonna get caught up. I don't think.
you try to keep kicking the can down the road and doing what you can, you know, but it was definitely I can't imagine where we'd be without that. I mean, that would have been we'd be in much
Oh, yeah.
dire situations.
And we survived the tax too.
We did. I think we did.
I think so.
All right, thank you, Zach.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have approval of payables for this week.
Well, the only comment I had was 10 point, that big bill.
That's our rapid patching.
Okay. That's what I thought it was.
It was a lot of square yards. I mean, we were over 3,000 square yards patching. It was a big project for a while. It was, we kept finding more and more joints that were deteriorating.
With the basement, did they find that in pretty good shape?
It actually was pretty solid. We did bring rock down to feather out underneath, but it really was pretty solid. It wasn't soft.
So it was a state highway once upon a time, and it was throughout the state highway.
It's amazing how much traffic that gets. When you start standing down there, there are lots of trucks.
They even had truck traffic try to still use it while they were working.
Couples back up to the lights.
And one was gesturing real well. Too. The only thing I see about those GS for construction and that public bid. So we do not charge for,
We do, we'll pay it and then nothing else. So
oh,
we
do
send
get
them,
reimbursed for those?
yeah, we don't make the paper wait to get paid from them. We pay it and then they'll reimburse us and then it just goes into the supervisor's miscellaneous revenues. So, yeah, we did send a bill out to them.
Okay, that's fine.
That's why you see it listed separately. So
Any questions about the bills? If not, we're in order for a motion to approve it. Second. Been moved and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Contrary, motion carried. Next we have is approval of fiscal year 21 cash report. Got any comments on this, Courtney?
sure. So I'm gonna go to the last page, because I don't like reading the summary one, because it just jumps everything up in my opinion. So at the top of the page, it says service area 0. And this page breaks out all the expenses and it lets us know where we were at in our ending fund balance at the end of the year. So as far as I'm concerned, very healthy balances. General basic ended at 2,890,267. Keep in mind, there's farm proceeds in there. I mean, not all of it's farm proceeds, but there's some. That's maybe why that's a little more elevated than normal. Supplemental, that's pretty typical to have under a couple $100,000 in that fund. Mental health, 115,271. Rural, 763,714, which is probably a little higher than normal. Roads ended at 4,118,516. I'm not really sure if that's a little higher than normal.
We didn't,
Probably a project didn't get paid for or something like
we
that.
didn't get construction dollars spent last year's.
That's why I was looking at front.
Yeah, pretty healthy balance there, which is good. Other includes local option. It also includes the recorder's electronic fee fund, which roughly has about $30,000 in it. It also has the attorney collection and forfeiture fund, which has about $15,000, give or take. I might be a little off on that, but not significant dollars. Majority of that money is to local option money. Next, you'll see capital projects, 1,497,165. A majority of that is jail proceeds for the capital projects. A little bit of it is conservation. And then the other two capitals that are in there, ambulance and the county is very minimal. Then you see the debt service is about 61,000 that got carried over. Obviously, that'll be used to pay down the debt payments when those become due. That's the only thing that money can be spent on. So overall, I thought everything looked really well. You look at, I don't like looking at the front page, but it's really the only one that kind of breaks it down between what was budgeted and what was actually spent. That very front page, it begins with revenues. So you can see total revenues came in at 26,777,157. Budgeted was 26,622,826. So we came in a little higher on the revenue side. And then you go down to expenses and look at line 31, because that includes our transfers. So we budgeted to spend 37,935,386 and only spent 31,945,305. A lot of that's from the jail project. Hoping to have the jail done in fiscal 21, but obviously it's not. So there's, if you look at line 26, you can see that the capital projects came in way under budget. We go up to line 22, which is our roads department. You can see they budgeted to spend 7 million. Spent about 5.9, so that would explain why their ending fund balance is higher than predicted. So overall, we collected just a smidge more than we thought, and we didn't spend quite what we thought we would. So our ending fund balance is actually really good. With your approval, I will get this published in April, like we have to do every year, and if you have any other comments.
No, it looks really good.
Yeah, I looked at that front page, and when I
Yeah.
looked at it versus budgeted, it looks very good, so.
I'll make a motion to have this published in the paper.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Been moved in second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. Okay, next we have is the approval of Class C liquor license for Carroll County. Yeah, Carroll County. Carroll Country Club.
Go ahead and make a motion to approve the liquor license for Carroll Country Club.
Been moved for second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion carried. Okay, next is, this is not, there will be, on the approval, third floor finishing cost summary. There will be a change order on this also. But I wanted to get this approved so we keep the process moving up until we hold enough. So I just thought we'd run this past the board today. I have kind of talked to you guys about this. This was the estimate to fix that one chamber, to put the old door back in to make it more handicap accessible, and then also to throughout the north wall, to put wiring and cable in there. And the first estimate we got, I looked at it, you know, I think my originally told you it's supposed to be not very costly. Well, when the first one came, it was almost, it was right here, I got there, came in at $8,393. And I got looking at the drywall on this, so I called Tony. And I said, for that short wall, that drywall was awful expensive. So he did reach out to that contractor. And what went from, was $4,930 for that wall, went to $2,402. So they dropped down to $5,700. So but we did gain on that. So, but I wanted to get this somewhat of approval on it today, even though there will be a change order. So we are holding up the process. Does anybody have any questions on it? This is all regard to that handicap accessibility in that one. If there is not, I would like to have a motion to approve this cost.
I'll make that.
I'll second.
Been moved and second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary, motion carried. Okay, next we have committee reports.
I can go first. Last week, Scott and I did ambulance director interviews Tuesday evening. They went very well. You will see we have 2 of them on the agenda for next week. Then I had the ISAC Legislative Committee meeting Tuesday, and then I did stick around and listen to the mental health discussion that happened right after that. I also had the radio and newspaper, and then I filled in for Jean at the Iowa Transportation Commission meeting. This week, I have the daycare meeting today at 4:30, and then I will be calling in via Zoom for the jail meeting Thursday.
I can go next. Last week, Monday, we had our communications board, communications meeting, trying to negotiate on the cost for between the county and the city of Carroll. I will say this was probably one of my more successful meetings. We did come to a verbal agreement. And I reached out to you and let you know that, and then so that the city of Carroll's going to pass the council, and once they do, we will approve it also at that point. So then that will eliminate the 28E board, and this will not be a discussion anymore on the annual contribution to the communications. So we take care of from and then as she said, I did not make the DOT meeting or the CAC meeting for the funeral. Then on Wednesday, I did travel to Willie and Troon projects. Thursday, I sat in on the Highway 30 meeting, Zoom meeting, and I didn't bring. I did. They basically talked about the 4-lane between Benton and Von Benton. It's going to be let this month yet, they thought. There was some discussion maybe of doing a Zoom meeting with the DC in regard to due to the infrastructure dollars that might be coming out. And we kept and that was about it, I guess. That was last week, and then this week I will. There's a CADC meeting which I'm not going to be able to make, and then I will have a meetings that I'm doing by Zoom. There will be new opportunities, and then also I will be zooming in or by phone the jail progress meeting this week, and then on Friday is the Yes Center board meeting up in Cherokee that I will be doing by Zoom.
I can help. Last week I had landfill meeting on Tuesday morning. They took in 55,000 in recyclables, Rich, which was a record month. It doesn't pay for the cost, but yeah, prices are up. Then Stephanie and I did do the interviews on Tuesday night. This week, I have a jail meeting on Thursday and DCAT on Thursday afternoon.
I can go next. Last week, had the communication center meeting at noon on Monday with Gene and the city, and I thought that went pretty darn well. I mean, we actually, when we got all done, we were within $7,000 of where we thought we were, both sides wanted to be, and we almost kind of split that difference, and so it was a good meeting, and I'm glad it's over and done, and we can go forward with that. I went to the DOT Commissioners Input meeting on Tuesday, and I thought, you know, geez, I think there's only, when I started going to these commissioners meetings, there's only 2 of those commissioners that are left from that board. So Highway 30 Coalition's been going at this for a long time, and they still are receptive. We still have projects on on Highway 30 that are still in their plan. I just hope they don't expire before something is actually done in Western Iowa. That would be my concern, I guess. But it was good, and once again, the presentation from all those doing inputs was very, very good, except for one, and personal comments about that, I guess. But, anyway, so the Highway 30 Coalition night. Yeah, then I participated in the Highway 30 Coalition meeting on Thursday. And comments on that, I think it doesn't really show itself, but there are 2 ideas of what should be done. Whether it be 4-lane or be the rural 4 concept. And unfortunately, one of the past commissioners is very high on the rural 4, and I don't know if that's going to be the way we want to go. Really, I think but I think we allow it to have, I think the coalition allows that input from this individual simply because they respect him so much and he's been so promoting it for so long. So anyway, I don't, before anything happens, I'm sure that things could change. This week I have nothing. I know that I'm going to be in contact with Raccoon River Watershed Management Coalition, simply to be part of setting up the meeting, our quarterly meeting in October. So see what kind of discussion we're going to have there with the new chairman. That's it for me.
Last week, on the 10th, I attended the Highway Commission at 8 o'clock. And I thought that meeting also being covered pretty well. I also thought that looks fairly favorable for Western Iowa, that something will be done. I'm starting to get a feel now that could be a hybrid mix of things. That is starting to surface just a little. I don't know how much footing that will get, but it seemed like that was mentioned in a later meeting at noon also, which kind of led me to kind of come away with that thought of the day. But then on the 12th, I went to Des Moines and Stephanie was there. I attended the mental health, came away with more questions than answers. I anticipated we were. I was a little disappointed to go down there basically for a 40-minute meeting. And
It was so disappointing.
And it went without still nowhere. But I did pick up one little thing, Dean, I'd like for you to check it on the backside for me if you would. Raccoon River, that watershed had an employee, I can't think of his name, the head of it.
Bill Stowe.
No,
No,
He's
their engineer, I can't think of his name, but anyway, he was an employee of Buena Vista County because they were the county of Mario. Because he played his payroll and everything through Buena Vista County because they are now on the hook for the unemployment.
oh,
So
yeah, that's been
now I
brought
don't
up.
know whether any counties are gonna step in
How
and
did,
help them with that.
so they talked about it? Some supervisors talked about
No,
it?
I picked it up, Dawn and I were talking about it. She has a little inside track being she works out of Buena Vista County. And I thought, you know, when you volunteer to be the fiscal agent for a organization, it comes with ramifications. So be careful when you step into one of those. And if you would, check that a little bit, not just
Well,
get
yeah.
some verifications there.
Yeah,
And I don't know what's really costing them. I know
Well, I
what the
know.
cash outlay is.
I know what it is, but
So, and I don't know whether there wasn't any funds left to cover that, was there either? So,
I'm the treasurer and the balance is zero.
yeah,
So-
so,
And they pay their unemployment like we do, you know, we pay it out of our pockets, you know, we don't pay into workforce. We have an unemployment claim, the department's paying that themselves, and they may be the same way there, which can get very expensive.
but I.
Well,
think-
you know, I think there was the discussion at the last meeting, how we're going to pay that and, you know, whether or not we go to all the counties, all the cities.
And the long way, I'm headed the long way, this is part of the mental health issue. Some of the advocates work for are paid through different counties. I believe ours is paid through Crawford. Louise, is her payroll paid Crawford?
She is a proper county.
So now-
So there you
in the
go.
big picture, if the state would step in, and these are all theoreticals, and that's where a lot of these questions were. If they step in and they didn't see a need for Louise to be there. And they already have a presence of other people that they would like to keep. Here comes the unemployment for Crawford County. Here comes, so these are the questions as the state funds dig into these. What kind of a turmoil are we going to see on the other end? And then that was one of my, I asked the hard asset question, the employees, the computers, the buildings, everything. Well, it's being paid for by taxpayer money for taxpayer money. That's what I was told. And I get that. Our taxpayer money keep the people employed through what we were paying through the region. And that's tax dollars coming back from the state. I get that. It's kind of the same thing. But my problem is when the state decides that they don't need that building and they sell that building, it's like, now, wait a minute, Carroll County wants their piece of the pie back. And the state's gonna say, no, it's ours now. So those are the ownership of every little piece of this pie is kind of like, I wanna have ownership of it, but I don't want ownership of it. So I think that's the thing that either you gotta take it or you don't. And I think it's time to force, I think the counties are kind of getting to the point where, let's force their hand. If you want it, take it. So we'll see where that goes. But like I said, we came away with
Nothing.
way more questions than we even got for answers. And we're gonna try to do the next one via Zoom. I literally, I don't think we were there 45 minutes. I don't think I was in town 45 minutes.
It was almost, and I don't like saying this, it was almost like they scheduled a meeting to check the box that they had a meeting. But I could have told you that, how can you have a meeting about decisions that haven't even been made yet? Like, I would wait till you get some direction from the state before you start having these meetings.
Yeah. And I think, the assessors, they had their own separate issues, and I don't think they kind of understood as much as the supervisors that are really been digging into this and been on these regions for quite a while, or hearing people that have been on it.
And there were some DHS people there too, that might be a spin on this as well now.
Exactly, we're starting to get a little inkling that DHS may be taking over mental health. So they might be combining at the state level.
I had a concern about the whole mental health thing, and I know they passed a Senate file that changed who's going to be in charge of mental health. But the Board of Supervisors certified our budget on time, did everything we should do with our budget, and then the state can just, we're going to change your levy because we can change the rules, and now the state's going to run it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Where does that fit in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Isn't that home rule?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's home rule.
they basically did
State is run over top of that.
Yeah, reduced our mental health levy by what they thought that we need to pay the region. And Don confirmed that it was correct. However, I'm like, well, our budget's not.
No, it's not correct. So what do we do with that money? We can't give it back to the taxpayer? Can we not tax them for it?
Well, we're only levying what the state said we could instead of what we certified. So we're not gonna over collect from them, but
Okay.
I just think it's odd that a board of supervisors can certify their budget and then there's a little change down in Des Moines. And then they can just change everybody's levy rates.
So. the
That's my
next-
2 cents. I just thought that was.
Yeah,
No,
oh,
it's a
yeah.
$2.
I mean, and the next step is now that we may have some reserves that the state may try to swoop and steal. And as Don said, we need to get on more of these children's initiatives and get these programs started or get this stuff done. And we're building a monster that may not be there or get totally changed. And then here
Just
comes more
disappear.
employees and more buildings and more and more and more of stuff that we have no control of what's gonna happen to it. So it's very entertaining right at the moment. Let's put it that way.
5 years from now, it'll be more entertaining again. We'll change again.
Don seems to think that we're headed
Mark my words.
for six
You can write it on the
six
wall.
regions, and she also believes that DHS and mental health will be merged together soon.
Keep your books though, so we'll have this back in
Well-
5-10 years.
IDPH and DHS are gonna be merged.
Yep.
So that's probably gonna happen. So they're figuring out that deal,
Yeah. So anyway, so yeah, it's a whole big bucket of worms. Anyway, this coming week, tomorrow I have CADC at noon. Wednesday, Rolling Hills in Holstein should be quite an interesting meeting. And then Thursday, we have a jail meeting. And other than that, that's all I have for next week.
On that workman's comp from Mario's Agua, I guess I'm not sure how he can even do that. Because, I mean, he knew but there was gonna be an end to this.
There was an end.
Yeah, there was gonna be an end when, this money. So I think there's gonna be some
Pushback on that.
challenging, yeah.
Yeah, I just, Dawn told me that, and I just sat there and like, we could be in the exact same boat, and that's why she brought it up, because we could literally be in the same boat again. So, that's why I say, I want to keep track of all how these are working, and if there's an out, there's an out, and if there's not an out, we need to be prepared for it. So, anyway, if you would.
Yeah, well, I'll keep on it, but yeah, it's pretty bizarre.
Courtney, what we got for next week? You got any comments?
I have a few things.
Okay.
I'll start with what's next week. We've got 2 interviews for the ambulance director. Those are both going to be in closed session because they're employees of the county as of now and they've requested it. So then we have the Second Amendment sanctuary county resolution, and I think you all have seen that. That came from the sheriff. So we would like to have that on the agenda. It sounds like the county attorney will be present as well. I'm going to pass these out. The county assessor prepared these. She does this every year where she'll take the cities in Carroll County with their levy, the taxes and what rank they are in the state, and then also some surrounding counties. So I'll pass these out. She wanted me to give these to you guys. Wanted to let you all know we got some of our recovery fund money, $1.9 million, I believe. 1.3. Gene must have been there when we were talking about it. Did we get 1.9 or 1.3? 1.9 something, almost 2 million. That is sitting in the bank now, so.
Not enough spoken for it, right?
No, well, I mean, if you want
We
to.
allotted that 10 to each Windstream and somebody else, if they get the grant approval to get on it.
So
I mean, there's a little bit of amounts that were.
Then that's
Probably.
Well, go ahead. I think that'd be fine.
Oh, that's all right. I was just gonna say, like she said, the 20,000 is already spoken for, plus the whatever we're gonna pay SEH. Now the good news. So we pay a company to do our boiler inspections.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna start with the roads department because there's this. Okay, so there's originally was put in 1998. There's just a small issue, it sounds like. Says each automatically fired hot water boiler must be protected by a low water fuel cutoff intended for hot water service. There can be no shutoff valves between the device where it is attached. Functioning of this device due to low water condition must cause a safety shutdown and lockout. It must be provided with a low water fuel cutoff device equipped with a manual reset. So I don't know if they talked to you at all about that. Zach just got this given to him. So it sounds like we'll get somebody out there to do.
Didn't know we even came.
I think they do this every maybe 3 years. But anyway, we'll get probably Carroll Controls to go out and do what's supposed to be done.
Can I get a copy of that sometime?
I'll just email it to you if that's okay. You're welcome. Now, the county boiler. So in 1964, it has some issues. So I'm just gonna read what it has, and we or the board, Zach's gonna have our person that maintains it come in and take a look and give us an idea of what it's gonna cost to do this stuff. The problem we're running into is we're looking at upgrading our HVAC, so we need to weigh the options. So the first thing it says is multiple tubes were noted to be leaky The tube should be replaced to prevent fireside water leakage. So that's one thing. Leaks were discovered on the piping isolation valve associated with the boiler. The piping isolation valve should be repaired or replaced in accordance with code requirements prior to returning the boiler to service. So obviously, we're not using the boiler right now, but they're wanting this to be fixed
By winter.
prior to us using it.
Just a state inspection, just a recommendation.
We are required to have the boilers inspected, and we pay this company to do it. Yeah, so I'm thinking our insurance company probably requires it, because obviously you have major safety issues if you have boiler issues. Blowing up or whatever. Probably worst case scenario, but, so minor, I think, minor issue at the roads department with theirs. Well, theirs was in 1998, so it's a little newer. But Zach Niehaus was gonna have Carroll Controls come and take a look at the recommendations and kind of give us an idea of what's gonna cost to do these fixes. Because obviously, we're not gonna have a new boiler in place come November. I think that process will even be, it might be just getting finished up and you guys are deciding what you're gonna do at that point. So I hate to spend money on a boiler that you're gonna replace, but if it's a safety issue, I don't know if we have a choice. So that's that.
And maybe we can get a variance. Possible.
Or even do light patchwork to get it by, not replace, or try to figure out the most equitable.
Well, we got a little bit of time.
We got insurance on that too.
We do, however, my office is right above there, so I would appreciate it getting fixed. So we don't have an issue, because if it blows up, we're gone.
Either that or you're gonna move that.
So you don't like my patchwork out there?
Well, I think it's important to look at the most cost
Well, I
effective
think
way
it
to
is.
fix
I-
it,
yeah,
yeah. And that's why he's gonna have, the guy that has been doing the work on it come in and take a
Do
look.
some legwork on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the first time they got a bad report on it. Usually there's always been good reports. on
Yeah,
it.
I
Can't believe this is running.
One's like a
Well-
tank or,
Okay, anything else?
no, so there may be some costs that come with that, but.
Have you received anything on the census yet?
Yes, and it had to do with the program that the state was gonna offer in order for us to do what we needed to do, and I forwarded it to GIS.
I did look at it, it came out last week, and I did kind of try to find, you can't find anything total without scrolling around, trying to follow numbers, but.
Was it 20,218 is our
Carroll
population
County
now?
lost 52 people in 10 years, which was disappointing, but when I got looking around the neighboring counties, I'm very thankful. Most of the communities in Carroll County have lost population except for a few. Which, and with what some of the cities have lost in Carroll County, we're losing 52 people, tells me I think we've got a bigger migration to the rural area than we're.
So what was the total, 22, what?
I think it was 20,218, I think.
But it was on the email. Okay.
Yeah,
It was
Yeah.
52 people less than last.
you can go online and do this.
So I wonder if that, hopefully, that won't change our lines too much then.
Redistricting.
Our lines
Well,
are
it
probably.
probably will, I think.
You think a lot?
No, I don't think so. I mean,
Street or two.
Joan was looking, she was looking at it and she thought that maybe you might, say you two are probably picking up the most of that population. That population is shifting to Carroll, southern Carroll. So then, ours may move a little, mine may move up, street, a block, a mile or whatever. So it's gonna be something. I think we'll probably gain more area. You guys will probably lose more area.
So is it
Because
just
one of
that,
the ones that, the communities that I've seen that did increase the population was Arcadia, Hilbert, and
Manning, Coon or Manning?
No, Coon and maybe Little Templeton.
Linden?
Templin, didn't either. Couldn't, did not meet.
Probably just spend-
So is the goal to have,
It was Lily.
is the goal to have all 5 of you have similar numbers as far as
Population.
population wise?
And that's the way it's set up.
Each one of these gets 4,000 each.
Okay, that was on census. And then when you were talking about the Recovery Act money, I did get a call in regard to some of that. And it was from a nonprofit, and I did tell these people to contact Region 12. Because I don't know if you remember the week before, I listened in on a webinar, 101 on American Recovery Act. And that program, there is money available to nonprofits, which is why I highlighted. Because I took note of that. So I steered them in that direction. Okay. The only thing I see here, did she put her out truck on it? I'll move back with the rest of
I
it.
can't answer that. She just did cities, it looks like to me.
Okay, anything else? Any comments from those online?
No, there is not.
Comments from those in attendance? If not, we're in order for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank
It's been moved and second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion carries. Thank you all.
Dan,
Yes.
laptop for you. Down.
What was that?
I have a laptop for you to guys do some work. Bring it down, you come out.
Yeah, you just want to bring it down.
Okay, very good.